LPG Mechanic Mandatory Inspection. Namaste. Welcome to the training module of LPG Mechanic Mandatory Inspection. In this module you will learn about how to complete the inspection and guide the customer about the consequences if found anything wrong inside the kitchen. This module is based on the qualification pack number HYCQ 3401. What is the mandatory inspection? Every 5 years, the gas distributor representative should visit his customer's kitchen and check if all the equipment is okay or not, such as gas stove position, Suraksha hose pipe, to be replaced for every 5 years, cylinder position, condition of regulator, presence of other cooking fuels, Pujal amp etc., and many more things. They carry a checklist carrying all the details what to inspect and how it needs to be. This process is known as mandatory inspection. Now, you are at the agency. First, you need to confirm the address where you want to go by opening the HP Gas Mandatory Inspection application. For login into your account, fill your registered number and tap on Request OTP. Now, you will be reloaded to the new screen where you have to fill the OTP and submit it. After submitting, you'll be logged into your profile. Now, there are two tabs named Today's Inspection and Total Inspections. To check how many inspections allotted to you on the same day, you have to open Today's Inspection tab. Click on Allotted. Now you will be able to see the allotted inspections for that day. Now, note down the address of the customer, prepare the toolkit and proceed to his house. When you reach the customer's house, first, ring the doorbell and wait for the customer to open the door. When the customer opens the door, then greet him first and ask for his permission to go inside. Namaste, ma'am. I am Suman from HP Gas Agency. This is my ID card and I am here for the complaint that you have registered. Ma'am, please may I come in? If she denies, then you have to click on the Denied button. If the door is locked, then you have to click on Not Available button. But, if she allowed you to go for the inspection, then you have to click on Inspect button. Now, the checklist opens in front of you. You have to inspect the kitchen and fill the checklist accordingly. You have to check in which position the cylinder is placed, that is horizontal or vertical. If it is placed in horizontal position, you have to tell the customer that the LPG is available in liquid form inside the cylinder, so there are chances of leakage when we kept it into this position, and also the cylinder is not stable in this position. It will roll down and make the connection of hose with the cylinder loose, which finally leads to the leakage of the gas. If it is placed in a vertical position, proceed to the next step inside the checklist. Check whether the cylinder is not kept in hot water. If so, then tell the customer that, if the external temperature of the cylinder rises, it will lead to the pressure rise inside the cylinder and eventually it leads to a major accident. This is the correct way to place the cylinder inside the kitchen. Validate that the proper ventilation is given to the cylinder and it is not placed inside the closed area, because if there is a leakage on the cylinder or regulator, the leaked gas then collected inside it and the chances of accidents increases. It should always be kept in open space, or if it kept in the cupboard, ventilation must be provided at the bottom and top both. You also have to validate that there is no utensils or clothes kept on the cylinder. Cylinder or regulator should always be in an accessible position in case of an emergency. You have to keep a check on any additional cylinder, empty or full, is kept inside the kitchen with or without safety cap. If the cylinder is available with safety cap, then it is fine, or if the safety cap is not available on the cylinder, then share the consequences of the same to the customer, that the safety cap will protect the cylinder valve, and in case of leak from the valve cap on, it will not allow gas to come out. If you are unable to find the additional cylinder, guide the customer about the double bottle connection. Validate that no trolley is kept below the cylinder, because it will topple down the cylinder easily, thereby causing the leak either at regulator joint or stove joint. Now, save the checklist and proceed to the regulator checklist by clicking on the next button. You have to validate that the customer or any of the family member is aware of the correct procedure of fitting the regulator. If yes, then OK, otherwise show the demo of fitting the regulator to the customer. You have to validate the make of the regulator. Is it from HP or some other vendor, because it will be difficult to validate the authenticity of the regulator. Validate the Bakelite ring and knob of the regulator, because it will create panic around whenever there is a leak or any emergency situation, so ask the customer to change the regulator, or with the permission of customer, change it then and there with the new one from your kit. Check the regulator make, batch number and serial number and fill it in the assigned column, then save the details and click next to proceed to the rubber hose checklist. Fill the details of what type of hose is used at the customer's house. If the regular rubber hose is used, then guide the customer about the consequences of the hose, and also guide the customer about the Suraksha hose and its benefits, like it got 3 layers including wire mesh, and it is weatherproof, flame redundant, resistant to rodents, and also have 5 years warranty for enhanced safety. You also have to validate the hose is having the ISI mark. If not, recommend the use of Suraksha hose to the customer for better safety, as Suraksha hose is IS:9573 and rubber hose is IS:10908. Check whether the hose fits properly at the regulator or stove nozzle and there is no clamp on the hose. Fix the hose, because LPG can leak from loosely connected joints, leading to an accident. You also have to validate the validity of the hose. If the hose is expired, change the hose immediately. Fill the hose validity on the assigned column. If the hose is expired or near the expiry date, change the hose or convey the customer to change the hose on or before the expiry date. Check for any cover on the hose, because the hose should always be visible in order to know the condition of the same, and sometimes cover itself damages the rubber tube from inside. Check that the hose is of adequate length, as the length of the hose should be between 1.5 to 2 meters. Check whether the hose and stove are placed in the same room, because if both are placed in the different room, then the leakage detection would be difficult and it will cause panic during an emergency situation. Validate that the hose is not having any crack, because the LPG leak from the crack and leads to the LPG accident. You have to check that the hose is properly visible and not concealed, because detection of leakage will be difficult if the hose is concealed. Validate that the hose is in proper condition and there is no need to replace the hose. If the need is there, convey the same to the customer and replace the hose. Save the details and proceed to the next stove inspection. You have to validate that the customer is not using T-connection with the stoves. If he does, guide the customer about the consequences of using the T-connection, how it is dangerous to use and how it will lead to the leakage of gas and create a panic around. You have to validate the level of the stove is above the level of cylinder, because LPG is twice heavier to air. In case of leakage, it will always settle down. In case of stove is kept at ground level, it can ignite the leaked LPG. Now, check that the stove the customer is using is having ISI mark, because ISI mark stoves are having high thermal efficiency, leads to saving of gas. Check whether the stove is working properly on sim position. If it is not working properly, clean the burner or jet so that the flame will not get extinguished at sim position. Now, validate the flame of the burner. If the flame is blue, then the stove is working fine. If not, check the burner or jet or air mixing tube and provide a solution to the customer. Select the details of the stove from the drop-down menu, that what type of stove the customer is using. Then, submit the details and proceed to next. You have to validate that there is no leakage in the hose or hose joint and hot plate. If you doubt the same, use the soap solution to check the leakage. You have to validate that there is not having more than one gas connection in the same kitchen. As per the LPG control order, more than one LPG connection cannot be used in the same kitchen. You have to validate that the customer is not using kerosene oil or any other fuel in the kitchen at the same time, because using many fuels at a time can be dangerous, as during the leakage LPG gets ignited with these fuels. Now, validate that the refrigerator is not kept inside the kitchen, because if there is a leakage, the spark from the compressor can ignite the LPG air mixture. You have to validate that there is not any other open flame available inside the kitchen. In order to ensure safety, all open flames to be extinguished at the time of connecting new cylinder. Click on Submit and proceed to the next steps. After completion of inspection, you have to fill the client details in the application and submit it. Now, you have to click the images of stove, regulator, hose and complete installation. Then, customer needs to sign and confirm the inspection in the application. When you submit all the inspection details with customer's signature, the invoice will be generated and you have to share it with the customer. In the end, collect the money, greet the customer and leave the house.